Hello and welcome to the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast with your host, Kimberly Dunn of Idlewild Horsemanship and Mindset Coaching. This podcast is here to bring you the very best in tips, tricks, and advice to help you better understand yourself, your mindset, and your horse, because your horsemanship starts with you. Let's go. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horsemanship and Mindset podcast. I am delighted to have you here. This is the second time I'm recording this due to technical difficulties, so here's hoping that this recording is as wonderful as my first recording was. Oh my God, sometimes I hate it. So this week, we are going to be diving into a topic which may or may not be seen as controversial. But it's something that I think we all need to be considering when we think about ourselves and our horses. And it might challenge the way you see your horse and yourself. Because the thing is, we are being taught, knowingly or unknowingly, in society today that all stress is bad. And we may or may not be seeing at the minute a lot of polarization on social media that is either in one court or the other of all stress is bad, and if your horse feels pressure, you have done something wrong. Or you might feel like if you're nervous, then you're not ready and you shouldn't do something. But what if? Consider this. What if it's not only untrue, but it's holding both of you back? Because the thing is not all stress is bad. And learning the difference between quote unquote good stress and quote unquote bad stress might just be one of the most important things you ever do for your own confidence and for your horses. So we're going to dive into that today. And we're going to dive into the problem, the problem in the horse industry right now, the problem in the world right now. And the thing is, it's becoming more and more polarized. You have one side saying you need to push on, toughen up, get on with it. They're taking the mick out of you. You should dominate them, etc., etc. The side that's wielding the whips and bashing on the head collars and kicking on and cracking them on the arse to get them over the jump or do the thing. Okay, and then you've got bigger bit, put a bigger bit in, etc. And then you've got the other side saying that your horse should never feel stress, ever. That you should always ask yes questions all the time. Okay? And with these two extremes, you end up in the middle, especially if you're struggling right now. You end up in the middle wondering what the hell you are supposed to do. What the hell? And if you're there, I feel you. It's tough because you don't want your horse to shut down. You don't want to harm your horse. And then you also don't want to raise a horse or train a horse that is fragile, that is really reactive, or that is totally unable to cope with life, that has extreme reactions to things, that quote unquote, I don't want to say has no manners, but is just, there's no boundaries there. So you are getting quite literally walked all over, lashed up. Okay. And the same goes for you. You don't want to feel overwhelmed and panicked all the bloody time. But then you also don't want to just avoid everything that challenges you in life. All right. And this is where it's really, really important for us to be able to understand the difference between quote unquote good stress and bad stress. Okay. I'm going to just check here. Okay, everything is good. I'm recording in chapters so that I do not do what I did earlier and record a whole half hour yabber on and then realise it's not recorded. Okay, so Understanding the difference between good stress and bad stress. Let's go. So, bad stress, otherwise known here today as distress. This is the kind that feels overwhelming. This is the kind that creates panic or shutdown and has no sense of safety or resolution. This is the kind that builds more fear over time for you and for your horse. So, when we're looking at our horses with this, it might look like explosive behavior, like shutting down or learned helplessness, which is definitely not something we want to be getting into. It might look like chronic tension in your horse. So, when you see pictures where they look really pinched in their face, where they're just uncomfortable all the time, it might look like the inability to think or respond. So, when your horse is totally overwhelmed and you know where you're in a situation where they're like, oh, they're not listening to me or they're not focusing, it's because they've just totally lost the ability to think or to respond to you because they can't focus because they are stressed, because they are in distress. Okay. In us humans, this might look or feel like anxiety spirals, like freezing or avoiding things. It might look like catastrophizing, our old friend catastrophizing, and feeling just totally out of control. And this is not where growth happens for us or our horse. This is where actually we end up stuck, where we struggle to make progress. Now, good stress, quote unquote. Today, we are looking at good stress as eustress. So, this is the kind that feels stretching, but manageable. Okay. This is the kind that has moments of release and relief. This is the kind that builds confidence after the experience. This is the kind that expands capacity over time, the kind that expands your window of tolerance for things, the thing that builds resilience. Okay. In horses, this will look like alert but curious. This will look like the ability to process things and to come back down to relaxation. Okay. This will look like trying, even if they're a little bit unsure. And this will look like recovering quickly. Okay. And this happens for you, by the way, if you take your time, if you give your horse pause, if you allow them to process things. All right. This is where growth will happen for your horse when you do that. Now, in you, this is going to look and feel like butterflies, but not dread. Okay. This is going to look like you being focused, but also being able to be present and in the moment. And it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you are still in it. And this is where you're going to feel proud afterwards, like, oh my God, that was tough. That was a bit scary, but I did it. And this is where resilience is built. This is where resilience is built for you. And this is where resilience is built for your horse. And this matters. This matters a lot. You being able to define each of these, but also the difference really matters for you. Because what most people are missing nowadays is if you try to eliminate all stress ever, you are not going to create a calm horse. You are going to create an unprepared horse. Okay. And I just want to uh, kind of dive a little deeper into that statement. You don't create a calm horse, you create an unprepared one. Because the thing is, it would be lovely if our horses could just be horses, if they could be free and just live happily throughout life. But the fact is, they will experience stress in their lives. If they're a wild horse, they would experience stress. And living with us, they will experience stress because the thing is we have taken an animal and we have forced them to integrate into our society, into a life with humans. That's going to cause stress, okay? But it is up to us as humans to help prepare them for different situations so that they are able to handle them without distress, okay? So that they can learn pressure and release, so that they can learn to do things like pick up their feet, to move backwards, to come in and out of a trailer or a paddock in a way that's going to keep them safe and us safe. So that they can so for instance, they can tie up without pulling back and losing their mind. Okay. Now, that is not going to come from tying them to a tree. That's an extreme. That happens, unfortunately. That is going to cause them to totally shut down because they're in distress. Okay. But can we allow them to respond to pressure like a halter and pulling back on a halter and to then relax out of that? Yes, we can, but we have to teach them that. And to do that, there has to be some pressure applied. We can do that in a way that works with our horse that doesn't cause distress, but a healthy, quote unquote, kind of stress. Okay. We have to help our horses through this by practicing these things. Okay. Not doing that, avoiding that totally because we don't want to upset our horses, create an unprepared horse that is then setting them up for distress in different situations. Okay. So this isn't oh, you have to be cruel to be kind kind of a thing. This is you have to help your horse prepare for things so that they can move through things. They can move through life without distress. There's going to be stress, but can they handle it in a way that creates resilience and comes back to calm? That's the difference. Okay. And the same goes for you. Confidence for you isn't going to come from you avoiding pressure or avoiding all stress. Okay. Or for you striving to always be totally serene in all things. It comes from you experiencing pressure, experiencing challenges, and realizing actually you can handle it. Because resilience and confidence is not the absence of stress. It is the ability for you and for your horse to move through it and then come back to safety. Okay? This is where the magic happens. This is where your nervous system and your horses learn, I survived that and I'm okay. Like, actually, I've got this. Let me just save this before I have a fall. Okay. So let's now have a look at the grey area because this is where we're kind of struggling a bit. So you might feel like, okay, how do I know? How do I get what is good stress? What is bad stress? How can I help my horse with this? How can I help myself with this? Because you might feel like you're struggling because you're pushing too much, or you might find that you're struggling because you don't know how to read the line between good stress and bad stress. So you either find yourself pushing too far, like I said, push too much, or so then you end up in that place of overwhelm. So your horse might be overwhelmed, or you might be overwhelmed, or you're avoiding things totally. So then you've got stagnation. And neither of those places are places where you can build confidence or your horse can build confidence. So the skill that we need to develop is in knowing when to stretch, when to ask for a bit more or keep asking, when to support you or your horse. So when to kind of change things up, and knowing when to pause, knowing when to stop, when to take a breath. Because in that place, that having that skill, that is true horsemanship. That is where the magic lives. And that is self-leadership as well. Okay. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, good. Well, how? Here are some practical takeaways for you that you can take away and you can start practicing right now. So here's some things to start noticing. Number one, look for recovery. So how quickly does your horse come back down from things? How quickly do you come back down from things? Because that is going to tell you everything that you need to know for a start. All right. So look for the recovery. Number two, think in windows, not in extremes of things. So you are absolutely not aiming for zero stress ever. You are aiming for tolerable and productive challenge, that moment of stretching, okay? Stretching the comfort zone. Number 3, celebrate the try, not perfection, because growth lives in the attempt, not the outcome. All right. So, as we all know, there is no failure as long as you keep showing up and trying. Okay. And it's in those places that you actually learn and that you actually grow. So, how about we ditch the perfection and we think about these small tries, these small steps? Okay. Because that is where your growth is going to be. That's what we need to aim for. Number 4, regulate, don't remove. So we don't want to try and eliminate all activation completely. Activation is good. But how can we support the nervous system throughout that? Okay. So this is, things like a bit of breath work. This is things like allowing your horse to move so that they can regulate, we can regulate, and then you go again. Okay. I hope all of that was helpful. I often tend to worry about talking about things like this because of this polarization, because I don't want to be seen as the person that's saying, "Oh, him says that you should put pressure on your horse, and that's wrong." Um, but I need to talk about this more because we all need to hear it more. We all need to hear that actually a bit of pressure is okay, a bit of healthy stress is okay for us and for our horses. Because again, we've forced our horses to live with humans. So we need to make things as good for our horses as we can. And we're not going to make that happen by avoiding everything. Okay. We're going to make that happen by, there needs to be a bit of pressure, but there also needs to be release, and there also needs to be relaxation, and there also needs to be listening to our horses and working with their nervous system. Okay. There are ways of doing this that are good for our horses and good for us. So I hope all that makes sense today. And I want you to know, if you're listening to this and you felt a bit seen and you felt a bit like, oh, okay, thank you, because I was feeling a bit lost, please know that first of all, you aren't failing. And it's okay for things to feel hard. No, it's okay for things to feel hard sometimes. And your horse isn't struggling because they feel pressure. You're not struggling because you feel pressure. Why can't I get my words out? The goal here is not perfection. The goal is capacity and creating more of it, okay? Capacity for you and your horse to feel, capacity for you and your horse to process, capacity for you and your horse to recover, and capacity for you and your horse to grow. Because that, again, is where the magic happens. That is where you can build confidence, you can build trust, and you can build that partnership together. Okay. That's where that lives. I really hope that was helpful. If this episode did hit home for you and you've realized, oh, okay, I've been feeling a little bit stuck between do I push or do I not do anything? So you don't know whether you're pushing too much or holding yourself back. This is exactly what we look at inside the Enlightened Equestrian Program. Because in the Enlightened Equestrian Program, we don't force confidence. It's not about avoiding everything that feels uncomfortable. It is about teaching you and your horse how to move through pressure with trust, with understanding, and with ease and empowerment so that you can ride and train with confidence, so you can feel calm and in control. And I don't know, maybe feel a bit of joy again. And so that you can build a genuine partnership with your horse. Hooray. So the spring cohort is now open for enrollment. Spaces are limited and we are starting next week, people. So if you are ready to stop feeling stuck and you are ready to start feeling inspired and empowered, head to the link in my bio where you can find out more. You can also book a little call there if you want to just chat about whether it's right for you or not. Or you can send me a message on any of the socials at the Horsemanship and Mindset Coach. Just say the word EEP or something, and we can chat. We can voice note about whether it's right for you. What I will say about the program is I only run group cohorts twice a year. Okay. So the group cohorts are a little smaller on the old price point. So if you've been thinking about doing the program, this is a really accessible price for you, and there is PayPal Play, so you can pay, so you can split payments, okay, or do pay later or whatever feels good for you. So it's an opportunity and it's there waiting for you if you are ready to jump on it, which I definitely think you should. Um, if you found this episode helpful, please let me know. Please share it. Tag me if you do share it. And if you know anyone that needs to listen to it, send it to them. I hope it was helpful. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will be back again next week. Over and